Yes, boys and girls, I've been waiting for this one. This has been a bit coming. In my mind, it's been a bit coming. I don't know about Mr. Thomas, but I've been wanting to talk to this guy, as the kids say, for a minute. I tell you, because
Oh
this
man.
pot, a whole minute, at least 1 minute. This is Turn the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, the newly crowned XWA champion, Riot, Kellan Thomas. Thank you so much, my man, for coming in, spending some time and talking to us, the fans.
No problem, Don. Thank you for having me. Like you said, it is. I would say this is definitely a very long time coming. I've seen you. You've talked to a lot of my friends and a lot of people I've shared locker rooms and rings with. So our paths were bound to cross at some point down the road, and I'm glad we finally got the opportunity. So thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And it was easy. It's not always easy when you correspond with the wrestlers, if you will. Sometimes you got to pull them. Got to pull them in a little bit.
Sometimes. Some guys are a little more reluctant, that's for sure.
And we were speaking off camera, and I kind of just want to jump right into this because before we get to know one Kellan Thomas, because this is actually part of it. We were speaking off camera, and I didn't really see you or don't see you do many interviews or kind of outside of the ring stuff, if you will. You kind of take business inside that ring. You do your thing. You win gold. And then, you kind of have your personal life. And it seems that you separate the two very well, might I add. Is that what's going on with, like you're visually, we don't see Mr. Kellan Thomas on podcasts and such.
Right. It's really, it's a couple things. And the way I really break it down, it's twofold. One is I've been wrestling since 2002. So I've been wrestling longer than YouTube has been around, longer than Facebook has been around, longer than Twitter has been around. So I'm not as a lot of the guys that are wrestling these days and that have started, they grew up with that stuff. That's just old nature to them. So for me, I'll be honest, it's a little foreign. I'm not as good with the video editing. I'm not as good with the technology these days. So I kind of just decide, you know what, I'm going to do my talking out there in the ring, and I'm going to give the people that paid to see me something to see. And the secondary reason that I don't do a lot of podcasts and interviews and stuff like that is because I just don't feel like anything I have to say is that freaking important. Like, I think that in wrestling, you get too many guys that believe everything they say has to be heard by everybody. And unfortunately, I just don't feel that way. And I know that makes me kind of a crappy wrestler because you're supposed to be promoting yourself and thinking you're the greatest. But I know that really a lot of what I say is just nonsense. It's just gibberish, and it's just fun, because that's what I'm trying to portray out there in the ring, is just the fun that should be had in wrestling. And I feel like there's way too many guys, and some of them, they come from very serious backgrounds, and they, have grown up in, amateur wrestling and MMA and all that stuff, and good for them. There is a place for that, and there is a time that those dudes deserve everything that they get and they have been getting. But you got to remember, we're all a bunch of carnies when it comes down to it. And we started this because some guy in a weird costume caught our attention, way back when we were a kid. Or, we heard of guys like The Undertaker and The Ultimate Warrior and these names that are just so outrageous. It's not meant to be, so serious. And it's not meant to be taken so seriously all the time. So if I can convey that sense of fun out there in the ring, that's what I'm going to do. And when that's all said and done, and when the lights are off and everybody goes home to their business, to their lives, I don't have anything to say anymore. I'm done. I gave them what they came for. I'll hopefully give them a reason to come back to the next one, and then I'll be on my way. Over the time, I've started to try and get out there more, and I've started to interact a little bit more online with fans. And, you reaching out to me, this is a perfect opportunity, because I guarantee you, I know there's an audience that watches your stuff that probably isn't that familiar with me, because you reach areas of New England that I haven't really spent a lot of time in. I'm mostly in southeastern New England and, that area, Rhode Island and Massachusetts. People out in Western Mass and Connecticut haven't really seen me that much or heard of me. So I know you reach out there and across all sorts of different areas. So, I hope to give them something to come back to and give them a reason to come see me the next time they see me on a card. That's all.
And that's exactly, well, one of the main reasons why I started Stirring the Pot was be able to get first to get to know the talent that we see in the ring. The privilege. I always use these two words, privilege and an honor, to be able to. I started face to face, being invited to the homes, if you will, or their getaway places, their getaway spots. But again, not everybody wants me at their place, so they would make me go to a park or something. And I get it. I totally get it.
Oh yeah,
but it was to know the talent, but to be able to put whatever small reach that I have. I just want to be able to at least have the network that I've made over the past 4 or 5 years to be able to kind of spider that, and just put that little spotlight, whatever I can do, on the talent that have never been interviewed. I love that. I love being the first interview. I think that's some really cool stuff. B, a guy like yourself who says, I'm just not into the interview thing. I've done a few, maybe a handful. I'm kind of comfortable with maybe a couple guys that I've already spoken with, and we just kind of run it back a couple times. I've gotten that before. But I also get, like you're saying, these guys that were, I've had a couple people on do the repeats, working on their third time and such, because they feel that coming on Stirring the Pot helps them just a smidge by getting that reach out a little bit with other podcasts.
Oh, absolutely. And as I said, that's something that I've come to learn, unfortunately. Like most things, I've come to learn way too much, way too late in my career. And one of the things I've learned is definitely the reach that social media and these podcasts and videocasts and all these other things have. There is definitely a market for it. There's so much content out there, and you hear all the time, oh, have you listened to that podcast? Oh, have you listened to this podcast? I've probably listened to maybe a dozen podcasts, and I don't mean like a dozen different podcasts. I mean like a dozen episodes of podcasts in my life. It's not for me. Everybody has their own thing, and I'm gonna do things my way, and that's basically how I've guided my career.
There is nothing wrong with that.
Career.
There is nothing wrong with that at all, because we all have our own flavor. We all have our own lives. We all have our own upbringings. The whole 9 yards that brings us all together in wrestling. That's Absolutely. Why I have a status that I always make sure that I share, because I feel that it's true over and over. It's a recycled status that stands true, and it's all religions, all creeds, all sexualities, all colors, all of it. The political differences in wrestling. All of us get together for that 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour show. It's so many walks of life, and we all just gather. And I know it's to many sporting events, but at wrestling specifically, there's not a bunch of bullshit going on with a lot of fighting and a lot of stuff on the outskirts, because it's not one of these events where, football and the baseball and stuff, they're on a larger scale, if you will. And we'll just take the WWE and the bigger companies away and call the indie scene. I know that's on a bigger scale, but I don't run into a bunch of jerkies at wrestling. There's a couple, wherever you go.
Any population's going to have them.
Yeah, but all in all, in wrestling in general, with all the walks of life and all of what I've just listed, I just feel it's one of the coolest things to go to and be able to escape, like we do, and you and the talent does as well.
Absolutely. And I've given this spiel to a number of people, whether it's in, training sessions, locker rooms, or whatever. No matter what our differences are, and when you look at any wrestling locker room, fan crowd, anything to do with wrestling, you look at that, and there are just people from all over the country, all over the world, different backgrounds, like you just said, all those different things that you just listed. But the one thing that brings us all into that one area at that time is professional wrestling. So there is a bond there that is shared throughout the crowd and throughout the locker room. And that's what keeps everybody together. That's what keeps this whole thing going. That's why it's been going on for these, I don't even know, hundreds of years at this point, if you want to go back to the Colosseums and all this stuff, or do you want to go straight to the carnivals and all that stuff? But something's kept us all going, and it's been that one binding factor. And it's such a strange subculture that you just don't find it in a lot of other areas. You don't find it with football fans. You don't find it with baseball fans because those are socially acceptable. Those everybody loves the NFL. You come to somebody, you don't. When was the last time you saw a kid in high school getting picked on? Oh, you're a football fan. Ah, yeah, look at you. Oh, wearing your Patriots hat. No, but show up in an NWO Wolfpack hat in 10th grade, you get made fun of. But you know what? That's what brings us all together. Again, it's what put us all in that ring. It's what put us all in that building. It's what made us buy that ticket. And it's what's kept me going. You know, it's what, like another thing I say all the time is you think of all the time you put into wrestling as any wrestler, fan, promoter, any photographer, the list goes on and on of the people that are involved. I could never, say enough about those. But you think of all the time that gets put into wrestling. 2% of it maybe is actually in the ring performing. It's the drives, it's the training, it's the practicing, it's the locker rooms before the show, it's the locker rooms after the show, it's the hanging out after the show, go out to the restaurants, out to the bars. It's meeting people, it's literally picking up people on an airport and calling your match on the way to the building that you just met because they're from another state. It's experiences that you don't get to have in any other walk of life. And it's just something that I find absolutely awesome.
I correlate music and wrestling many a time in my interviews. That what you just spoke of is almost identical to the music scene, my friend. Almost identical. Very, very, very similar.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so much that goes into, to speak of, before I got into indie wrestling, I was doing this 80s hairband thing. We were together for 6 years, Motley Crue, White Snake and all of that good stuff. And I kind of stopped that. And because I've done it for quite some time previous, and I was like, well, I want to do something different. And I was like, I've dabbled in indie wrestling, but I'm going to jump right in and see what happens. So I ended up checking out a show at PvP, and I haven't turned back since, man. I've been doing it, I don't know, like late 2015, maybe 2016. But we're gonna reunite my band, and the band is getting back together.
We're back together, brother.
We're doing a one-night reunion.
Please. One night only. How many one night only reunions have there been in wrestling and bands?
No, this is legit, my friend. This is a one night. I have this thing all planned out. I am the head spear of all of this.
There you go. It's your WrestleMania.
Yeah. We're cutting the night in half with another band, so we don't have to rehash like 40, 50 songs, So we're going to get some brothers up on stage. Yes, and we're going to have a grand old time. But that all culminates to the same thing that you're saying. There's so much involved. That one show that we're going to do in like September, October, it's going to be so much prep, dude. I haven't played guitar in so long. I mean, I got to get my stick together.
And I'll tell you straight out, I have the easy job. I tell you right now, I show up, I look at the card, I see what I'm doing, and I say, okay. The promoters and the bookers and all the people that have to deal with all the people messaging them about, oh, I can't do this, or I can't make it to this, or I'm not working with that person, or I'm not doing this, I'm not putting him over, I'm not blah, 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 blah. No, thank you. Paper, me, you. All right, what's the finish? Let's go. Like, that's what I want to do. That's how I want to keep it. And there are definitely people that need to do those other things. They're very valuable. I'm just glad they are other people.
But I like the approach, though, and I know that some are very, because the nerves are always there, just like musicians. You get up on stage and I'm like, man, let's get through this first song and I'm good. But it's a different thing with you guys and girls because you only get sometimes 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to perform and get that performance right, looking good, and leave us happy all at the same time, and yourself and your opponent, and you want to leave safe.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
No, finish, please.
We get a longer time frame because we do, a set of 12 songs, take a little break, mingle a little bit, get back up there, do another set of 12, and then not only do we stop there, but we do yet another set of 12. So we have the whole night to kind of get our groove, if you will. You guys and girls, it's right there. It's right now. It's always live, no matter if there's a camera there or not. It doesn't matter if there's anybody recording or not taking pictures. It's always live TV right now.
Yeah, you have people right there on top of you sometimes. There's been crowds that have literally been up against the ring at a show like, at Fet Music Hall. So the second you step through that curtain, you're on. There's no, can we run that back? Excuse me, can I have another take? It's fuck it, we're doing it live. That's exactly what it says, But that's part of the thrill. That's part of the excitement. And no, we don't have a 2 or 3 hour set with an encore that we can, give the people what they want as individuals. As a show, you do. So you kind of have to picture yourself as you're not the band. You're just a band in in the festival show, basically, if you're going to go with this equivalent. But like you said, there's no retakes, there's no warms up. And that's honestly part of the thrill. That's what gets you going. That's why after doing this for 19 years, I still get that little, nervous excitement in my stomach when I'm getting ready to hit that curtain. And like you said, it's one thing. It's drastically different in one way. And I'll bring this up because I've had this conversation before in locker rooms where you said, and your band, you say you botched, you messed up on that first song. You know what? You didn't have your groove. You weren't there yet. You're a little offbeat. I'll get them on the next one. You don't get a next match. Your match is over. You're in the back, and you got to hope that the guys after you make the crowd forget what just happened. But with, it's just you get this one opportunity, and you got to make it count.
Absolutely. And with us, and not all wrestling shows are alcohol free. So the ones that do have alcohol, I get it. But by the time we get into our second set, we're already juiced up, baby. I mean, we're like, yeah.
Well, that too. And that's the thing. And especially I take a show like last Saturday at XWA. It was honestly, especially after 14 months of being gone and having the live crowd back and packing that house and everything else that happened. It was a hot night. It was a long night. The crowd stayed with us the whole time. But I'm in the back, like you said, you mess up on that first song, you move right on to the next one. Meanwhile, I'm the last band to go on, and I have to stand there the whole day wondering about, okay, me and Trip are about to beat the living hell out of each other. Because I knew I was going to war with that son of a bitch from the second that match was announced, because that's just what me and him have done for the last decade and a half. So I'm sitting there for a couple pre-show matches and an entire show's worth, pacing back and forth in the back, wishing I could just go out of there first to be done with it, get my music out of the way and hit the back. But it's still, like I said, it's an experience you don't get in a lot of other places. So I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Very unique. And this conversation we're speaking of with the music and wrestling, they are very similar, but very different.
Oh, absolutely.
Wrestling, and I've said it, and I'll say it every single interview if I have to, and I don't care if it sounds repetitive. I feel personally, it's one of the hardest things to accomplish as a singles wrestler in the universe. I think it's just so hard, and there's so many, there's many things that are very difficult to accomplish, and I'm not taking away from anything else. And I mean, let's talk Navy SEAL and all of that shit. I mean, that's a different.
It's real life stuff.
Yeah, but wrestling, I feel, is very hard. It's such a mind game, more than the physical game, to be honest with you, because that pursuing wrestling will break you way easier than you think. And I'm not talking from experience. I don't want to sit here and say like I know.
It's a relatively known fact. I mean, you're not breaking new ground there by any stretch of the imagination. You've seen it all the time. Look at guys that have made transitions from the NFL or from other professional sports or amateur wrestling or Olympic athletes that have tried to make the jump to professional wrestling. Some of them have had wild amounts of success, like Kurt Angle or something like that. But others, flame out and never go anywhere. And you hear interviews all the time about they didn't expect it to be as hard as it was because they don't realize not only, like you said, the physical toll. They're professional athletes. They can handle the physical toll. That's the easy part. It's the mental toll. It's the grind. It's knowing. Anybody can do the moves. Anybody can be trained to move in a certain way. But it's the pieces that you can't train is what makes the difference between an athlete and a wrestler.
Very well said.
And it takes a certain mindset. And I've said this, one of the biggest differences I think between music and wrestling is that you can be okay in the head and get into music. There are a lot of well-rounded people that become musicians. Maybe not certain genres, that's for sure, but there are plenty of well-rounded people that can become successful musicians. Nobody in wrestling is right in the head. You do not do what we do as a normal human being. Nobody wakes up and says, you know what I want to do? I want to throw myself on the ground for the entertainment of other people. I want to put my body through torture and pain so people could cheer me on getting my ass kicked. That's not something a normal person does. They go out to dinner on the weekends with their families or their girlfriends or their wives or their husbands or their boyfriends, and they go to like parties with people. We pack VFWs and Elks Lodges and beat the living hell out of each other. But you know what? Again, that goes back to what we talked about earlier, where that's the bond that unites us. It's the thing that brings us together. It's the fact that we all have that little screw loose. And it's awesome.
I think that's what I name every episode differently. I think I'm going to call this, that's why we have a screw loose.
Yeah, pretty much. We're all here because we ain't all there. That's pretty much what it boils down to.
That's a great.
I stole that line from Kenny Chesney. I'm not gonna take credit for it.
Oh, my friend. Yes, fine.
I also will say that me admitting to being a Kenny Chesney fan will either be good for my career or sink it. One or the other. I don't know how it's gonna go. I'm gonna be me.
Oh yeah, hey, that's the thing about Kellan Thomas. That's the thing, my friend. Right there, though. Boys and girls, what a fine conversation we are having with the XWA champion. And Mr. Thomas, this isn't my show. I know it says Stir in the Pot with Donkey Cake, but this is definitely not my show.
Just your name on
it. Yeah. It's just got my stupid name on it. But this show is for the fans, really, because without, us, the fans, I mean.
Everything we do is for the fans. They're the ones that are paying the ticket prices to get the promoters, to bring the guys in, to build the buildings, to rent the rings, to do the things that they need to do. If it wasn't for the fans, none of us are here.
You guys say that, and I just flip it back on you guys and say, well, if there wasn't you guys, there would be none of us.
It's a very chicken or the egg comment. It really is.
But again, like you said, would never change any of it. May it be a bad, good, and I've had way more good experiences than bad experiences since I've jumped into the realm of indie wrestling. Because boys and girls, it's something out there, Mr. Kellan. Yes, it's very unique, and as he has stated, we're not all there. That's why we do this stuff and run into posts and get power bombed on concrete and jump off
tables and chairs and ladders. Oh my!
Oh boy, we have been running for about 22 minutes now, and I write nothing down. This is always off the cuff. I don't write it down.
I don't either.
And we have not asked you a damn question. Isn't that amazing? We're almost a half hour deep. Never asked you a damn thing.
When I don't do these interviews, I save up all my talking.
You spoke of 2002 was the beginnings of RIOT Kellan Thomas. We're going to get into that name because it seems to be an acronym. There's dots after each letter. I ask you about that.
Yeah, I'll tell the story. That's fine.
Okay. But let's go back to the 2002 era when you're kind of getting in. And is your first, because I can almost guarantee your first gimmick was not RIOT Kellan Thomas. Please, oh please, let it be something like Kane was when he was a Christmas creature.
It was something. So my first match was April 20th, 2002 for Northeast Championship Wrestling. And I was part of what was known as Team SCW. So the Elements of Suicide, which were a tag team / trios group from the late 1990s to the early 2000s in New England, had been working a program in NCW with a group that they used to be associated with called SCW, Suicide Championship Wrestling. And the whole storyline was that SCW was run by, Luke Gemma and Moko and Postal Pete, and they were going to assemble a crew, and they were going to take on the EOS and their manager, Gina Marie. So I was on Team SCW, I don't even think I had a name. I was just team member B. I had crappy Hot Topic pants that I had gone and gotten and just thrown together because I had started training somewhere in the neighborhood of February, March of 2002. When I hooked up with Dre and Scott and the Elements of Suicide and began training to become a professional wrestler. The match was on April 20th, 2002. So I had been training for maybe about 2 months. Which looking back at the time now, I say to myself, I'm like, wow, like that was wild. Like I probably had no business being in there, but Dre and Scott took care of me, and it was obviously one of the most memorable experiences of my life. I ended up working a couple more shows for NCW. It was not Riot Kellan Thomas. I teamed with Hollywood Johnny Nash. I did a couple tag team gauntlet things. I don't even remember. I got yelled at in the locker room, and then I never worked for them for 9 years. So, but looking back now, and I definitely have told this story on some other podcasts and such, but I deserved every bit of what they told me. The criticism was 100% real and genuine. Maybe the delivery could have been better, but I was at the time, a 19-year-old punk kid who thought he knew what he was doing and could, do whatever he wanted because he could copy what he saw on TNA that week, But that's not wrestling. So that was it was a humbling experience, but it was also a blessing in disguise because, as I said, the Elements of Suicide really took a liking to me, and they, I was one of their students, quote unquote, and they came up to me a couple days, weeks later with an idea, and they were like, we want you to be the new third member of EOS. And I, at the time, was like, holy crap. Again, I'd only been training for a few months, let alone, I'd only had not even a handful of matches in front of a crowd. And I was like, are you guys sure? Like, you want to bring me into, your group? Because they had been champions in Maine. They had, PLW champions down here for Tommy D's group that, has been around for a long time, NCW tag champions. So they had, a following. And a few years before that, they had an additional third member whose name was Ruckus. So there was the Elements of Suicide, Cinna, and Onyx, and then the old third member was Ruckus. So I decided that, if I was going to be the new third member, I needed to adopt, a name. And since Ruckus was gone, I said, well, if he's going to cause a ruckus, I'm going to start a riot. And that's, at the time, from 2002 until 2005, I believe, I was just Riot. Most people that I met and wrestled with did not even know my real first name. So I was to this day. And that's mutual because there's people I've known for just as long that I don't even know their real first names. So, but again, that goes back to the nature of the business that we're in, where it's all fake. But then in 2005, when Cinna and Onyx hung up their boots and retired, I decided that, I had to venture out on my own. And, I didn't have the street cred that Cinna and Onyx gave me anymore. And I was just me. And I kind of had to change it up a little bit. And that's when I decided that, I wasn't just Riot anymore. I was the Riot. And that's when I added Kellan Thomas in. And how many years later, here we're still doing it for some reason.
Wow. So it's been since 2005 to present day that you've been Riot Kellan Thomas.
Yep. And I'll be honest with you, the stylization of the name has changed over the years, depending on A, who's making the poster, and B, what they feel like doing with it at the time. So, sometimes it has the dots in it. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's Riot. Sometimes it's the Riot. But I kind of like keeping it that way because, again, wrestling is what you want it to be. And it also helps that I grew up, Kellan is my real first name. So it was a name I grew up with my entire life. And as difficult as it doesn't seem, you'd be surprised how hard it was in school when it was like, first day of school. And it's like, all right, Matthew, Michael, Stephanie, Kellan, here, So I go to restaurants. Oh, name for your order, please. Kellan. Oh, Kelly? Yep, sure. I got Karen the other day. So I stopped correcting people in high school. I tell people my name and say, what's your name? Kellan. Whatever they respond with, yep, cool, go with it. If you're important enough that I need to correct you, we'll work on it. But otherwise, I had a high school teacher that called me Cullen for 4 years. So if that's how you want to spell it and if that's how you want to do it, then who cares? It's all up for interpretation anyway.
That brings me to that is absolutely hilarious. That brings me to a really quick story. I went to a show and there was 2 tickets waiting for me under the name John Kincaid. And I didn't say
You wouldn't think 3 letters could be that hard.
No. And I didn't see said tickets that were set aside. So I paid for myself and my pop. We get in, we walk into the venue, and I see the guy that kind of helps run the joint, and we shake hands, we give a hug, and he goes, "Did you get your tickets?" And I go, "What tickets?" So he goes, "Come on." He goes, "You paid?" I go, "Of course I paid." He goes, "I got 2 tickets at the door for you." I go, "Oh my God, I can't believe you. I mean, you didn't have to do that." So we walk up. He goes, "Here you go." And I go, "Well, I paid for him already." And that says John Kincaid. Who the fuck is John Kincaid?
What if John shows up? He's going to be pissed. I took his tickets.
Oh, man. I don't get that as much, but you, my friend, I can just...
who cares? If that's the worst thing in the world, is at least you're knowing the name. Whether you spell it right or add dots or not, at least you know the name. That's the important part.
And then that question, the 2-parter, the dots in between the RIOT, does that actually stand for anything at all?
Technically, no. As I said, it was just Riot for a long time because of the Ruckus thing. But shortly after the transition or thereabouts, Onyx, my old trainer, was at a record store and he was going through, back when those were a thing. Again, showing you how old my career is. He was going through some CDs, and for the people watching, CDs are these round things that people used to put into computers and radios to play music. Just think of it like a plate of MP3s. So he was going through them, and he found one that was called Revolution in Our Time, RIOT. So from that point forward, that's when I decided to kind of stylize my name a little bit, because I also have, in my career, I've taken a lot of influence from Japan. Anybody who's watched Dragon Gate or has seen my old gear or tattoos knows how influential, that has been on me. So you look at a lot of Japanese wrestlers and they stylize their names. One of my favorite is Shima. And obviously in Japan, they use kanji and different characters for their letters, but Shima is always in English letters, capitalized CIMA. So it was kind of one of those things where I'm like, that's just how I'm going to do it. And again, it's tough sometimes to get everybody on the same page when they're making posters for shows and things like that. And I'm just not the type of guy who's going to be like, "Oh, could you just add a little bit?" Who cares? They know who I am. They know what's going on. Let's go. If those few dots are going to confuse you that much, then I don't know what to tell you.
If that's what's throwing you off, God
exactly. If it's that important to you, then yes, that's what it stands for. I've gotten a few, and then everybody, people make up their own acronyms, so we have fun with it.
Now, you were speaking of the Japanese style and your influences. That, for me personally, very evident. Just seeing you from the get-go, some of your moveset, just the way you come out, and you're free. You're like the way I've always described Kellan Thomas. If anybody, because of the Rhode Island scene, and when I talk to people down here and we start naming names, they look at me funny, and like right now I go to a Shut Up and Wrestle up at Kevin Landry's Combine. They're at Shut Up and Wrestle 11, and some of the Rhode Island talent has been coming down here, and I am loving every stinking minute of it, man. I mean, for real. So I've had to describe, Kellan Thomas. I'm like, this dude's like a free agent. I always felt like you were a free agent. Like you were saying, I'm my own guy. I do what I want. I kind of talk my business in the ring, and then you don't hear from him. There's not a bunch of promos. There's not a bunch of stuff on his page. He may put some stuff, whatever.
I just want to make one thing clear before we go too far on that. Like, I try to make it, I promote the shows I'm on. I try to always make sure I'm getting people in the door. But the actual video promos of me and talking and cameras and cuts and music and all that stuff, again, way over my head. But I'm working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I was not taken away
No,
because
I'm not blaming you, but I just know someone's going to be like, "Oh, he doesn't promote anything." I'm not booking him.
no, because we want the talent to share this stuff. That's how we spread the word, you know?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But yeah, it's just, it is what it is. And you're not the only guy or girl that does this. Believe me. There was one guy, he's done 2 interviews. He had a short career, figured it was his time. He has a family. There was one guy, he's only had 2 interviews, and I happened to be the guy to interview him. Somehow, some way, out of everybody
Yeah,
on this world, I don't know how the hell that happened.
wrestling's weird
but,
like that.
but some guys are just kind of private and they want to keep their stuff separated, where other guys and girls, they just free flow everything, you know?
Yeah. But
Now,
like you said, with the free agent thing, it's funny that you describe it that way because I've always like everyone, one of the questions you get asked a lot is, "Oh, what's your home promotion?" Because everybody seems to have a home promotion, and I think it's just a byproduct of the time I came up in and the fact that I've been doing it so long. And a lot of the guys that I normally would have stayed in, the clique with, quote unquote, are just gone. They've either quit wrestling or moved on or moved out of the country, different parts of the country. So as I kind of became the last man standing from my, class, I just found myself in different locker rooms. And, you get guys, a lot of it's based on the school that you train at, obviously. They're literally called the Landry guys, the chaotic guys, or the Nepwa guys, the top rope guys, or the lockup guys. Like, you know who they are and you know where they're from. So that's their home promotion. And there's usually a school attached to it. My home promotion and the school that I trained in back in 2002 is now the same. Well, I don't even know now, but back in 2009, it was the place I bought my daughter's crib in. So it was weird seeing a bunch of baby furniture set up where I used to train to wrestle. So it's not like I have that, tie to my class or to my school or to my promotion. I have a lot of promotions that are obviously very special to me. NCW obviously comes to mind first because I had my first match for them. And, I just explained that story. And after, not working for them for a number of years, we were able to get back together and I've gone on to become NCW champion and that whole, and it's one of my favorite places to wrestle without a doubt. XWA, as you just said, I've known Mike Antonucci since 2005, and I've wrestled for him back then when he was running shows out of, various gyms and stuff like that. So, I don't want to insult anybody by saying I don't have a home promotion, so to speak. But I really, I've just, again, like you said, I've done my thing and I've been in locker rooms where, I see that group over there and that group over there and that group over there, and there's just me. But I've also, kind of worked my way to say, you know what, I don't have to be a part of anybody's group to be friends with them or to be social with them and stuff like that. So every time I'm in the locker room, I don't feel like I'm isolated or everything like that. And again, that goes back to the brotherhood and the bond that we all share. So it's never been an issue and it's never been something that's caused any problems, at least as far as I'm concerned. If anybody else has a problem with it, I don't really give a shit, but go ahead. So, it is what it is. And it's, again, part of what I think makes me me. And
absolutely. And that's why I always thought you were just like this kind of free flow guy that, did his thing, not like a mercenary. I would never use the word mercenary, but just like a free agent. I've seen you at multiple promotions. And like you said, I've never
independent wrestling, we shouldn't be tied down anywhere. Back in when I first started, I remember I had a conversation with a promoter. It was the first time I was asked to work for another promotion other than the one I had been working with for, a few years. And I talked to the booker and I was like, hey, so-and-so asked me to work. Is that going to be a problem? And he was like, well, yeah, actually it might be. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to go work for them. Bye. Because I've always been the type of person where if you're going to make me choose between two things, then I'm choosing the other one or the one that isn't making me choose. Because, if obviously we're talking equal situation here, not going to get stupid, but it shouldn't be that way. There was a lot of cattiness back when I started. And it was all done via, instead of Facebook and Twitter, we had the NEI and the Burning Hammer. So it was all done via message boards and chat rooms and things like that. But it was still a lot of the cattiness. Well, this promoter doesn't like this guy, so if you work here, you can't work there. Or, you can't wrestle for this promotion because that guy slept with that guy's wife. And I'm like, well, that doesn't affect me. I didn't sleep with anybody's wife. So I should be able to wrestle wherever the hell I want because it's independent wrestling. As long as the promoter and the worker are in agreement of what's going on, nothing else should matter. Unless, we don't have contracts, we don't have agents, we don't have this stuff. We're not that fucking important. It goes back to that. So as long as as long as you're willing to work for the promoter and they're willing to give you what you're asking for, everybody else should shut the fuck up.
Eloquently said, my man.
You can also title the podcast that everybody should shut the fuck up.
I could do that. You know,
a lot of episode titles on this one.
No, I feel what you're saying, even from a distance of what I've seen over the course of the 4 or 5 years.
I'm just gonna take a minute here because something popped up on Twitter. I think it was yesterday that I saw, and it was Mike Bennett, and I've known Mike. I wrestled Mike Bennett back in 2003, 4, 2, who knows when, for the YPW Cruiserweight title. I've known him for a very long time. We, obviously he's gone on to do amazing things in wrestling and in life and, gone through his journey, and he's very open and public about it. We talked about this, whereas I hold things a little closer to the chest, he's definitely much more open and public about it. Yeah, which is great. That's his choice. That's how he chooses to lead. And especially being in the public spotlight, it's obviously a lot easier. It'd be a lot harder for him to hold it in. But he's also been through a lot, and he's experienced a lot in wrestling and in life. And he's using that platform he has built for himself to share the knowledge and the experiences. And he got into an argument with some people yesterday about, is there such a thing as the wrong way to do wrestling? Or and forgive me for paraphrasing. I don't want to quote exactly what was going on, but it's something that's always bugged me because to me, again, there is no right way to wrestle. There are standards, there are common practices, there are universal things that we all hold true for various reasons. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as everybody's safety is taken care of, there's nothing we can't do in wrestling. As long as you tell the right story and you make it make sense. Like, obviously, you can just walk up to somebody and throw them over the top rope through 4 tables for no friggin' reason. And yeah, you might get people go, well, that was crazy, but they're not going to fucking care. But if you tell the right story and you do things the right way, you can make a single punch get a bigger pop than those 4 tables. So sometimes that involves arm drags and spots and athleticism and moonsaults and 450s. Sometimes that involves a headlock for 8 minutes followed by a drop kick finish. There's both ways are correct wrestling. As long as everybody walks away safe and everybody has a good time, they've done wrestling correctly. So to sit there and watch, Kenny Omega or Zack Sabre Jr. or name any other name out there, and to tell that they are not, their way is the wrong way of wrestling, like, shut up. No, it's not. It's just not your way of wrestling. And that's, again, what brings it back to the universal bond that we share. While it is professional wrestling, everybody has an idea of what professional wrestling is. Just like if I was to tell you right now, get 10 people in a room and say, draw a dog, right? Some people are going to draw a little Shih Tzu. Some people are going to draw a big, giant Great Dane. Some people are going to draw a Golden Retriever. None of them look alike. None of them are technically wrong, but they're all dogs, just like it's all wrestling. So whether it's you want a Shih Tzu wrestling or you want a boxer wrestling, you can have what you want. It's out there for somebody. And just because it's not your cup of tea doesn't mean you should go shitting on everyone else's tea.
No, because that would really taste kind of cocky.
Yeah.
But
cockiness in wrestling.
I love everything you said because I always speak about the different forms of art of wrestling. Okay, because we have the standard, then we have the specialty matches, the ladders, the cages, the tables, the chairs, and all of that. Then we have your hardcore. Then we have your death match, and then there's so many forms.
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I cannot stand deathmatch wrestling. Not one bit. IWA crap, the night, the Otani. Like, I just want nothing to do with that. I respect the hell out of those performers. For them to put their bodies on the line the way that they do and the shit that they put themselves through, respect. I'm glad that you're out there to do that. That's not for me. I went through some tables last Saturday with Trigga, and my shoulder's still not right. So, I'm going to sit there. I'm going to work your arm for about 8 minutes, and then hopefully we can go home from there. So, to each their own. But again, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, I don't like that, so no one else should. No, I know plenty of people that go crazy for that shit. They travel around the country or the world finding it, So clearly there's a market for it. There's the same reason why there's so many shitty TV shows on, because people are obviously out there watching them. I'm not going to watch them, but obviously if they're going to be Kardashians on my television for 20 friggin' years, someone's got to be watching them.
Maybe that'll be the name of the episode. Why are the damn Kardashians been on my TV for the past 20 years?
It just bugs me when people are just so intolerant of other viewpoints, and it's becoming more prevalent in wrestling in the world. And if I don't have 1/millionth of the platform that Mike Bennett does, but I at least have a few people that do listen to me. So if I could use my experiences and do a little bit of what he's doing in a much, 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 much smaller way, then I will, use what advantages I have.
Again, well said. And I love that you pass down, you speak, you've already said a couple times, as I said in the locker room, or as I've spoken in the locker room or such, you're talking to your peers, and it's not telling, it's not demanding. It's right. You're speaking, you're conversating, you're talking about what's good and all of this stuff. It's not this, I'm the vet, listen to me, this is what's going on. It's compromise. Exactly. It's being a partner. Right.
That's just not my personality. And honestly, when it comes right down to it, and I've said this in promos and I've said this, in person, I know in the grand scheme of things, I've been wrestling for 19 years. Yes. But I haven't really traveled. I haven't been on national TV. I haven't gotten any contracts. I barely even, left New England. But in the end, when we're all gone, all we have left are the stories that people tell us. We're not going to be in the ring forever, and eventually you're going to be forgotten. But that kid that just had his second match is going to remember you. And he's going to say, you know what, that guy could have just ignored me. Who the hell was I? I was a kid who had his second match, but he decided he was going to use what knowledge he had gained over those 19 years and try and teach, impart some of that onto me and create the legacy for the next generation. And if I can, I use the same strategy with my daughter, like I tell her all the time, you're going to make mistakes. Everybody does. But if you make the same mistakes I did, then I failed you as a father, because it's my job to make sure you don't make the same mistakes, because I've already been there. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing in wrestling, like if a kid's his second year in and he's going to be like, well, I've had this. Yeah, that happened to me too back in 2007. And guess what? It's 2021 and I'm still going, and again, I'm not sitting there saying I'm the greatest wrestler in the world, and I'm clearly not. But I've been doing something right, because people have been booking me, and I've got 3 current championships. So clearly I ain't that friggin' bad. So if that's the case, and if I can help somebody else in even a small way, even if it's just one little trick to learn in the ring, like, oh, when you do this, roll this way instead of that way, or turn the wrist this way and everything's going to change, to bigger things like, when you're, going for this move, this should be your next move, and things like that. There's 1,000 things that I feel like I can help. I'm not going to sit there and tell you that I'm right and this is the way you need to do it. Because again, it goes back to, this is the way I was taught. This is the way I like to do things. If you like to do it a different way, as long as it's safe and everybody's in agreement, then we don't have any issues. So I've always kind of approached things that way. Like, here's my point of view. If you agree, great. If you disagree, more than happy to talk to you about it, or we just go our separate ways and you call me names behind my back like everyone else in this business
does. Now, I've seen stuff like that, and I've seen it with a couple different organizations, but I just want to kind of pull a Jenga piece out real quick before we move on. I've seen that with Anthony Green specifically, and he was at a show, and it was at Battlefront in Ludlow, and it was pre-show, and there was about 4 or 5 of the other guys, and they were kind of mixing it up, seeing what was going on, going over their stuff. And Anthony gets in, and they start chit-chatting and whatnot. And they start doing a little chaining, if you will. And he goes, "Oh, that's pretty cool." He goes, "I like that." He goes, "I wouldn't have thought of that." He goes, "This is what I do." And he kind of replaced himself. And then he goes, "This is what I do." And he does this thing. And these guys are like, "Oh, no shit," because I kind of usually do this, but that had a cool little flair to it. And it was a little different than what I do. But on the flip side, they both showed something to each other right there in that 1 minute.
Exactly. I say that all the time. Just as much as I'm hoping to get into the ring and learn from somebody that, I've either never been in the ring with, or, every time you step into the ring with somebody, you hopefully have a chance to learn. I'm not only hoping to teach them something, but there's been plenty of times to this day that I still learn something. I love getting in the ring with guys from, NEPWA, because I know there's going to come a point in that match where something's going to come up in their training that I hadn't thought of, or I forgot, or didn't realize, or, and I'm going to learn something during that match. Same thing with guys from the lockup, or from, even I've started to wrestle a lot of guys from Kevin Landry's school that have come through, Thursday nights. So, it's something that you never stop. It's like anything else that we do. I'm still, learning, adjusting. And that's why I tell people all the time, I've done, I've helped out at, various schools and stuff like that with some training and stuff like that. But I'll tell people all the time, if anybody ever tells you they were trained by me, they're lying, because I've never trained anybody, because I am not qualified to be a trainer. Even though I've been wrestling for 19 years, I still need training myself to this day. So I can tell you what I've learned. I can give you some pointers and tips and tricks and that, but I'm still learning every time I step in that ring. Whether it's something, is just said to me, or something is done that I realize, it's something that you should never stop, because you're never, no matter what level you're at, whether you are, like I said, I haven't made it to TV, but there's plenty of guys I know that have, and even they have something to learn. And then once you make it to TV, even if you make it to whatever your goal is, there's always going to be somebody above you that's going to be better than you, that's going to be stronger than you, that's going to be faster than you. It's going to, no matter what level you're at. So you have to constantly keep working to reach that next level. And the harder you work, the further you're going to go. And like I said, I've put in my work in other ways. So there may be reasons why I didn't get to go out to the West Coast, or to Japan, or to various other places. My focus was elsewhere, whether it was on my, actual career, or a family, or things like that. But I would tell you right now, if I was to quit tomorrow, I would say with 100% certainty that my quote unquote, again, career was a success, because the people I've met, the stories I've gotten to experience and tell, the matches I've got to have with guys that do go on to TV, whether I'm wrestling them beforehand, during, or afterwards, it's experiences that you just don't get anywhere else. And it's been something that I've appreciated every opportunity that I've gotten. I appreciate the fact that I continue to get these opportunities. I'm going to continue to put in the work and do what I can to, make the most of it. So
I love hearing those words. I'm going to continue. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep pushing. I'm 19 years deep. I'm still going, baby. I'm training. You still have much to learn. It's a never ever. It's always
the past year of quarantine was definitely very reflective, and it was nice, because from March 13th of 2020 until I forget exactly my first date of my first match back, but it was well over a year. I not only didn't wrestle, but I wasn't a wrestler. I didn't put out promos. I didn't worry about, filming stuff or getting promos done and things like that. I said, you know what? I'm going to just be me. I'm going to focus on other things. I'm going to take care of myself personally and all that. But it helped me realize how much I missed wrestling, because I kept thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, it's nice not to, wake up and have trouble getting out of bed every weekend, but I miss not only the fans and the performing and the wrestling in the ring, but the camaraderie backstage and the locker room chats and the drives and everything else. And, when I finally got to go back to the NCW tapings for the first time in over a year, I couldn't remember the last time I was that jazzed up to be in a locker room. I was so happy to see everybody, and it was a great experience. And like I just explained about Saturday at XWA, with the first time that we've had a packed house at the event center, and it was something that helped reignite that fire. And I've realized that, I've put in work. Like I said, obviously for almost 20 years, I've been able to wrestle consistently across the area. So I can't be that bad, but I know I can do more. And I don't know how much time I have left. I really don't. I've said I'm going to stop doing this, A, when it stops being fun, or B, when I physically can't anymore, whichever comes first. I don't know when that's going to be, but I guarantee you until that time, I'm going to put in the work and then make the most of it. I got new gear, new shirts, new stuff coming out. So let's fucking roll. Let's have some fun.
Let's see what the future brings to
right?
life.
After 19 years, it's about time I finally figured out what the hell I'm doing.
Yes, my man. I don't want to take too much of your time because we're almost up to an hour here, and whatever the stuff that I want to drag out of you would take probably maybe 24 to 48 hours.
Maybe we can always do this again, right?
Oh, that'd be amazing! Yes, a follow-up would be absolutely amazing.
We'll see how the views go on this one. If people are that interested, gotta give the people what they want.
Yeah. Now we have yet to talk, and before I do let you go, I want to talk about your gold that you do currently have. Please name us the name of the title and the name of the company, because when we say the letters, not everybody knows the letters. And then after you do that, I want to get into Unbreakable before I let you go, please.
Sure, absolutely. So the first title, I can't exactly remember the order that I won them in, but I won the Renegade Wrestling Alliance Triple Crown Championship, which is the RWA based out of Rhode Island. They'll be coming back August 7th. They'll be running a show at Mount Pleasant High School. So that'll be something to look forward to. We'll get to defend my title yet again there. The Lucky Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Champion as well, which I won back a couple Novembers ago when I beat the crap out of Vern Vicaio. So they're coming back July 7th, I believe, or is it 7th or 9th? Let me just double check because dates are hard and I don't want to give out false information. July 9th in Hudson, so it's another outdoor show. I'll be defending my title there as well. And then, as we just talked about at Unbreakable last Saturday night, I became the new XWA Extreme Wrestling Alliance Heavyweight Champion in a honor that is bestowed upon me in a long lineage of some pretty cool dudes. So it was it was an awesome time. It was absolutely awesome.
Now, boys and girls, whatever promotions that you've never heard of, type them in your face page and such, look them up, check them out, hit the follow and all of that good stuff, because there's a lot of good product, because wrestling is we've been waiting for wrestling to come back.
Absolutely.
Sons of bitch, I think wrestling's like back.
It's back. I tell you, not only is wrestling back, but I work at Gillette Stadium, and after seeing the crowds at the lacrosse games this weekend, the world's coming back, and we're going to feed off that energy. That's for damn sure.
Now look this stuff up, check it out, and hit the old follow and subscriptions and all of that stuff. We want more eyes on the product. Now I want to talk about the wall real quick, because you speak of the lineage at XWA, and not only that, you've been there since 2005. You said, no, Mr. Antonucci. Now the product is obviously changed because it's been a minute. At least a minute. But going from 2005 to 2021, and not even that, maybe even like 4 or 5 years ago, their production over there, it's a one-stop shop. You walk in, it's got a beautiful entranceway. It's got the ring, and it's got the beautiful mic that comes down and stuff like that.
Well, it did until someone broke it, but yes.
That they have that. They have a little concessions. And they have plenty of spacing around holes, probably like 250-ish or so.
I think so. Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. The XWA has been around in one form or fashion for probably even longer than I can remember. Obviously that's a question for Mike. But again, I remember him asking me in 2005 to come wrestle for him, and I got to have a lot of great matches. I remember I wrestled Pat Masters in a match where we did every TNA finisher that we had seen that week, and we thought we were. I've wrestled against and then I think another match I had there, I teamed with Pat against the Logans. I remember, I think I wrestled BK Jordan, which is a name I don't know how many people will actually remember. Old Slam Tech kid, good guy, athletic is one of those guys, again, athletic as hell, but just didn't last very long for various reasons. But so I wrestled for XWA way back then, and then didn't for a number of years. So XWA itself has gone through a number of different changes as well, because they had, their start out and getting their feet kind of under them with the shows that I was describing. And then they've gone all the way up to running at, Brown University with Rey Mysterio Jr. and Rob Van Dam coming in. And the Resolution shows are always, through the roof. And I expect this year is probably going to be no different. But the event center era, if that's what you want to call it, of XWA has been, I think, without a doubt, some of the best, just independent wrestling that you can find on a Thursday night for $5 anywhere. You look at some of the names that have come through there that have gone on, not just the champions either. I talk about any of the people that have stepped through that door, not just on Saturdays either. We've had, Thursday nights where guys that you'll see soon on TV or have seen on TV will be there. And it's having a place like the event center, which not a lot of, organizations have, even that you can have the one-stop shop, like you said, with the whole setup, the entrance, the announcers, the concessions, the fan, everything's there, and you don't have to move it and lug it and rent a truck and do all this other stuff that a lot of promotions have to do. And it allows you to then focus on that stuff. So it is a tremendous opportunity. And I remember I was bored on a Thursday night one day and just heard that they were doing some wrestling down in West Warwick. And I went down to hang out and just check out a show. And Jose Perez was there, and he helps out all the time. And he saw me there, and I've known Jose since damn near I started. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, bored on Thursday night. I had just broken up with my girlfriend. I had nothing to do. So I came down. He's like, you want to wrestle next week? I was like, yeah, why not? Sure. Next week, I think I main evented Thursday Night Throwdown against Flip Gordon. And I'm like, cool. I guess this is what I'm doing on Thursdays now. And I've only missed, a handful since. And it's been something that I've looked forward to. It's one of the highlights of my week. And it's still something that I enjoy. And now I get to do it as XWA friggin' champion, which, like I said, there aren't many groups. I said it in my promo this past Thursday. There isn't another group of individuals on the planet that consists of myself, Austin Theory, and Vader. They're not. If archaeologists dug up our three bodies hundreds of years from now, they would not think we were from the same species. They'd be like, clearly, this one died of absolute weakness from the other two beating the shit out of them. But we're all XWA champions, and that's something that I am honored to be a part of. I'm, honored to carry all of the titles that I've been bestowed upon. I've won over my, again, career, because it's cool to say that, for at least a little brief time, you're the best. You're the best one in that building, at least. And if anybody else wants to prove differently, they can step up. And like I said, every time someone asks me, we should work, I want to wrestle you. Get your name on that paper.
Now, you made a return to the XWA event center because you were on a hiatus, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, I had taken quarantine off, from wrestling in general. XWA came back eventually. They took some time off as well, obviously. But as things started to open up more, they did limited capacity shows and things of that nature. But I wasn't there mentally. I wasn't there. I wasn't ready. And honestly, I said to myself, I wouldn't go back to professional, I wouldn't go back to wrestling until I was fully vaccinated. So I waited until I got my shot. And once I was, I hit up Mike and I said, I'm ready to do this again. And I got to, we got to surprise a lot of people, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm glad somebody still gave a shit about me. So, because I was just waiting for that music to hit and be like, oh, this guy.
No, it's fine.
That's my confidence through the roof as usual.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you went against Trig OG, Trigger the
OG, Triple-licious. All right, he's friggin' Triple-licious as long as I've known him, and he's always based on him.
Thank you. Now you guys, that's definitely not the first time you guys have gotten together there in the ring.
Not even.
How fitting was it for you to go against a guy like Trigger, because he's been a staple for a good minute as yourself, and you may not think so, but I know who you are. Many do know who you are. They appreciate and respect what you do in that ring. So how did it feel going against Trigger specifically?
It was one of those situations, where it wasn't meant to be anybody else, and it worked well, given that we did have that 14-month hiatus, because we were supposed to have our match originally back at the Extreme Rumble in March of 2020 in Plymouth, which got canceled, obviously, like the rest of the world. But so we picked back up over a year later, and I knew from the second I walked back into that ring with him that we weren't going to have skipped a beat. We could do it any day, anytime, without even thinking about it. And I knew it was going to be a battle, and I knew we were going to go to war with each other. But I feel like it was just, like I said, it was a destined to be, because I fought Trigger, the OG, for titles across a bunch of promotions. This isn't our first time going to war over a title. And we've also just had matches across the New England for a bunch of different promotions. So he's one of my favorite opponents. He's definitely one of my most respected rival. And I'll share a ring with him anytime whatsoever, because I know we're going to beat the living hell out of each other, and we're going to give the people around that ring every single bit of energy that we have, which is pretty much what we did on Saturday. I think we gave even a little bit more. So, you hear the term fight forever all the time. And as much as I did tell, after the match was over, I said to Trip, now let's never wrestle again for a very long time. So it is my challenge out there to promoters that book us to not have us wrestle each other. That is your challenge. Book Riot and Trigger without having them wrestle each other.
No, that's pretty fun, I gotta say. Now, again, just real quick.
No, take it, please.
The XWA Center, the landscape is just a bit different looking than it was the last time you were there. You're seeing the new faces, and obviously it's more of a younger generation. And I'm talking like wicked younger generation than I think it's probably ever been, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's for sure. And like I said, I did take that, obviously XWA took the time off, and then I took some extra time off. So in the time I left to the time I came back, there were a lot of young kids that were definitely helping hold things down in the absence of guys like me and Trigger. Guys like, Kellan King being Fire Ran champion, Ichiban and Haven, and a lot of, Flash, and these guys coming from, the PAPW and guys from Landry School that are coming through to help, keep things going while, some of the quote unquote regulars might not have been there. And they did a great job. I kept my eye on the product. I kept my eye on things and asked, how it was going, and talked to people that had been to shows, and they were having a great time. So that also helped me. That helped encourage me when I came back, because one of the things I love about the event center is the fact that I've gotten to wrestle a lot of different people from a lot of different areas. And I invite anybody that wants to come through, especially now that I'm champion. They know where to find me. I'm there most Thursday nights, and I'll take on anybody, because I love wrestling people I haven't wrestled before. Because again, that comes back to how you learn, and you get to, experience new things. And so, yeah, it's been awesome. But like you said, it's definitely a lot younger landscape. I'm pretty sure that I'm as old as the tag team champions combined at this point, between J and J. And Kellan, I believe, is 16 years old. I think he's going to be at Resolution if he can get it off from prom. So it's been really cool, but that's, the nature of the business. And that's going to be the next generation that goes on when that time arises for me to, take my step aside. And it's awesome to see them grow. I love as much as I say, I haven't gone anywhere, I haven't done anything. I've been around a lot of people that have, and that's honestly one of my favorite parts of wrestling in general, is being able to say, I knew him when. You brought up Anthony Green, or August Gray or whatever they call, superstar from 205 Live and NXT. He's got to be one of my favorite I knew him when stories, because that kid refereed some of my matches when I started. And he has busted his ass and worked his butt off to get where he is, and deserves every bit of success that he has. And I could say that about a lot of people that have been through there. And I can say it about a lot of people that are there now. And, I hope to use that motivation to, help fuel everybody, because if you can keep pushing that guy next to you, it's going to make the whole product better. It's going to make the whole show better, and it's going to make the whole locker room better, and everybody's going to win. Wrestling wins as a whole. It's win-win for everybody.
Everybody wins. That's amazing. I love that.
It's amazing what happens when you don't think of just putting yourself over and getting everything over.
Wait, what?
Foreign concept.
You were talking, I'll take on anybody who wants to come in and take a shot at the champion stuff. Now, I was going up to the XWA Center quite regularly. It was a 2-hour drive for me one way. And that was at the time when TK O'Ryan was their champion, and he was doing the TK Open Challenge when he was champion. Is that something RIOT Kellan Thomas would bring to the table, as an open challenge type situation?
Yeah, I think open challenges are kind of overdone. I really do. Open challenges are great for, certain guys. But for me, everything, it's always an open challenge. Even before I had the title, I'll take on, like I said, anybody, anywhere. If you get your name on that paper that the booker puts up, I'm wrestling you. So get your name on the paper. Let's go.
Nice. Get your name on the paper. Let's go. That's almost like the new title. I got 17 titles.
You gotta have him out of a hat.
Now, again, I could ask you question after question after question, but I'm gonna get to the tail end of this, so I can let you go. You've got.
I was gonna say, if anything, I think I just am getting hungry, so I'm gonna need to eat soon.
Before we do let you go, though, what I like to do. And not that you don't have a road story or two in your pocket. I guarantee. Look at that smile. Look at that smile. See, boys and girls, we're going to
I'm going to tell, that's for sure.
Oh, come on. No. The boys and girls like to hear at least one story before we let you go.
God, I don't know. I mean, are you looking for any type of story, or just a general wrestling story?
Whatever you're like, a road story, because you guys, it's not the same in the ring, because like you said, there's more of the stuff that happens outside the ring. So you guys and girls,
I'll tell a little bit more of this story then, because it's one of my favorites. I mentioned it earlier with picking up our opponents from the airport on the way to a match. And that was back, good God, I don't even remember, late 2000s, somewhere in that decade. Where I was working a show for Beyond Wrestling on Long Island at the NYWC. And I was teaming with Anthony Stone as DUI against, I think they were called Worst Case Scenario was their name. Ethan Case, and I forget his partner's name. Again, I've forgotten more of my career than most, but it was an awesome experience, because I got, me and Stone got to drive to New York, which was the furthest by far I had gone for wrestling at the time. And it was great, because I've known Anthony Stone for just about as long as I've been wrestling. And we've, been partners and enemies and every other incantation you can think of. So we were driving there, and we were asked on the way to pick up our opponents from LaGuardia Airport. So we're like, sure, whatever. Basically, it was on our way. So we pick them up, and these, again, guys, I think they were from Georgia. First time we had ever met them. We're driving on our way to the show. And we get to the NYWC, and I believe might have been 7 people in the crowd, if that. So it was very strange atmosphere. But Chuck Taylor was on commentary. So it's not like this was a bunch of scrubs. This was a show that Beyond was putting together, and they were trying to expand their reach outside of New England. And clearly, for whatever reason, it didn't work out very well. But I got to say that Chuck Taylor commented on did commentary for one of my matches. So that was definitely a highlight of it. And again, it was the road experience. It was the getting to meet new people that there's probably no other job. Well, now with Uber and Lyft, I guess it's not unheard of that you pick up strangers from the airport. But prior to this, it wasn't. You don't normally pick up strangers from the airport and drive them to go beat each other up. But the fact that you can go from meeting somebody that you've never met before to trusting them with your life in their hands in a matter of 2 hours is, again, one of the most incredible experiences that you get from only wrestling.
And that's such a valid point, though. Not everybody sees wrestling in the same light as a fan.
Right.
Not everybody sees wrestling in that same light. Obviously, we all have our own, like we were describing, our own flavor and our own thoughts and stuff. But a lot of people just don't realize. You just nailed it right on the head, man. Strangers that we've just met, and my life, my partner's life, are in their hands. Their lives are in our hands.
But it's the trust, it's the bond, it's the thing we share, it's the And there's been times I've talked to, I've met people for the first time and they've been like, oh, we want to do this, this, and this. And I'll be like, let's slow down here. Maybe we build to that sort of thing. But ultimately, it comes down to that brotherhood and that bond that we all just have come to know and love.
That's a fine way to end this, my friend.
I think so.
You have been very informational, very patient with me because never mind. I didn't even expect it to last about 15 minutes with me.
I didn't know how long this was going to go either. But like I said, once I get talking, sometimes it is tough for me to stop. So.
Oh, see, I could get going because I know you know who Dan DeMann is. Okay.
Yep.
I had to talk to a fucking plastic doll. It was a Funko Pop likeness of Dan DeMann.
Are you sure it wasn't Dan DeMann?
No. I am positive because it was finally crafted by one Dave Cole.
I can say, is that a Dave Cole painting behind you?
It is. It's an Ultimate Pac-Man, baby.
I have the Yoshi Ultimo Dragon one hanging in my basement right now, which is.
Yeah, so I talked to a fucking plastic doll for 2.5 hours. I mean, I can go.
Yeah.
I know, good for you. I'm out of here.
Like I said, if we get enough interest and if people do care enough, we can definitely revisit some. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time. I'd be more than happy to share my experiences and my stories with people. But again, I appreciate you reaching out to me and letting me, again, reach your audience. That for those of you that do know me, hi. For those of you that don't, feel free to look me up. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, but I don't use that one so much, so don't even bother.
It's all Kellan Thomas?
Facebook's Riot Kellan Thomas. Twitter is at Viva La Riot. So, I promote the shows that I'm on. I'm more than happy to, support everybody. I like the way wrestling is headed. I do. It's not at the peak of popularity like it was back in, the 90s and everything like that. But there's so much good wrestling out there if you just know where to look. And there's so many up and coming guys and guys that have, already made it and guys that, are well on their way to superstardom that everybody should get out there and support, whether it's me or whether it's your favorite, just keep the business strong and we'll all be all right.
Get out there, boys and girls. Support. Buy the merch. Buy the tickets. Buy the keychains, the stickers, and all of that.
I got a bunch of cool T-shirts coming out. Buy those things. Gear's expensive. I got shit to do.
I got shit to do. You even got Slam Buddies is making a resurgence right now.
I haven't asked anybody to do anything in the last 20 years, all right? Now I'm finally promoting myself. I'm finally asking you to buy shit. For the love of God, you owe me. All right? Damn it.
And with all of that said, what a perfect ending. This is Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Riot Kellan Thomas. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate it.